And now, for this week's special guest on the Tealey Sayin Something podcast.
Welcome to a brand new edition of the Tealey Sayin Something podcast, abbreviated to the TSS1. It's our third one. I can't believe it. We really are rocking and rolling now. Welcome, Shaun, Teale.
Good evening, Rob. How are we?
Oh, all the better for speaking to you, my friend.
Yeah, well, I'll take that with a pinch of salt.
Absolutely, absolutely. And talking of friends, we've got our producer on there as well. Producer Chris, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic, Rob.
Good, good. And I hear that we are being live streamed as well.
We're doing a test on our various live platforms. Whether it's working yet, I'm going to find out in a bit.
Good, and obviously you're going to show my face more because it's slightly better looking than,
of course,
than you two.
Yeah. Santa Claus's love child.
Absolutely. You can speak. I can see a beard coming on there.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk about the Paul moustache that Shaun had in the 80s and 90s.
Somebody's hit Shaun, haven't they, by the way?
Somebody's hit Shaun?
He's got a bit of a...
Yeah, piece of glass.
Oh, right, okay.
He's prone to mistakes. I saw it a lot when he played for the Villa. I love you, really. Talking about friends, a couple of weeks ago, I was down Villa Park for who did we play? Bournemouth, one of your old teams. Shaun, unfortunately, you couldn't join us, but I was there at the Witton Arms with a couple of our old friends. Brian Light was there and George. They said hello.
Yes, I saw the pictures.
Yes, and I was there with Mr. Wicks and some of the Cornwall Lions. Dave Wicks was there with a couple of them, which was really nice to see.
Did he get around it?
Did he get around it? I hope Wicks is listening to this. He will be catching up on it, so we'll mention that again. So just to let you know, Chris, last year, I think it was about this time last year as well, we did a book signing event at the Cornwall Lions down in Cornwall, funnily enough, in Falmouth, although we went over to Truro for it, but we stopped in friends of ours that we've become friends with now, the Light family, who live down there in Falmouth. So they've got a little annex going, and myself, Claire, and Carol and Teale were there as well. We had a right good weekend, didn't we?
We had a great weekend, yeah.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't quite class it as an annex.
No, it's not quite an annex. No. It's one of those holiday homes they do. So, hello, Brian. I know you listen to this. Hello, George. Hello, Izzy.
Hi, Brian and
hello,
George.
Becky. So yeah, we had a good time. I didn't actually go to the match though because I didn't have a ticket. Obviously, you hadn't invited me again, so I had to get the. Do you know what I did? Right, I haven't done this since about 1985. 1986, but I caught the 11C bus from Villa Park.
Oh, yeah. And the whole goes all around, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done that for ages. So it was really strange to catch that bus back. Cost me £2.30.
I mean,
I think the last time I did it was the 30p.
Yeah, I suppose it was. Yeah, during the war.
Absolutely, during the war, yeah. Last time we won a trophy.
Yeah.
Before you say it.
You beat me to it.
Yeah, exactly. So it was good to see them. Everybody was asking about you, Shaun. So it was nice to meet up with everybody. Shame about the result.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't the best.
I think that last second goal that deservedly, well, I'd say deservedly, you were there from the highlights I saw. We had the better chances, but they're playing well, Bournemouth, and I think that goal that they scored in the last minute has kind of like messed us up a little bit over the last 3 or 4 games since then.
It certainly appears to. We seem to have lost our confidence all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, on social media, Chris, you get this with the Blues fans as well. Armageddon has happened because we've lost 3 games on the trot.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously last night it's at Bruges when we had the Harlem Globetrotter playing for us. I don't know what he was doing. I mean, it's his first game back. He hasn't played for ages. But that was schoolboy error, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Strange. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, it happened last year with Arsenal, didn't it?
It did exactly the same thing.
Gabriel did exactly the same thing and nothing was done. So I can see why he did it, but I can also think Why pick it up?
Yeah.
Why not use your feet?
Yeah.
You know,
Some of the memes I've seen already on social media, I mean, even though it's against one of our boys, they have been funny. Some of the ones.
Very.
Yeah, so, but you know what? 9 points out of 12. You'd have took that before the start of the Champions League campaign.
Yeah.
You know, so we're there. I mean, Tottenham was awful, wasn't it? Absolutely awful. A game of two halves.
But to be fair though, we played better at Tottenham than we did last night.
Yeah, we did, and I think
we were very poor last night.
I think that if Watkins would have put that goal away when he turned in the penalty area and he put it well wide in the end, I think if that would have gone in, it would have been a different game. But the goal that really hurt me was that last one from Maddison. Yeah, because he doesn't like the Villa. He's a Coventry lad. He doesn't like the Villa. And then he come out with his trademark darts thing. I turned over by that stage. I'd had enough. I'd totally had enough. Right, Chris, how about your team then? National TV as well on Sunday.
National TV, ITV, isn't it?
ITV, I did.
ITV, yeah. They classed as
normally it's a comedy channel, isn't it, when they put the Blues on?
Yeah, I mean, we won, didn't we?
Yeah,
that was
right.
about it. We got through, you know.
A 7-0 is the same as a 1-0, isn't it?
Wasn't a classic, was it?
I didn't see it, to be honest with you.
A classic game, but
to be fair to Blues, they should have had a Stonewall penalty. I don't know what the referee was doing, really.
Yeah, I've not seen it, but I have heard people discussing it on social media, talking about it. But you're in the second round.
Definitely inside the box.
Blackpool away.
Definitely going to get a Wembley appearance, aren't we? Yeah. Or the Bristol Street Motors Cup.
Yes, and maybe you'll play Fulham's under 10s again, or whatever it was you played a couple of weeks
Girls
ago.
team, I think it was.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Right, talking about cup competition, a couple of weeks ago, I'll start that again because it's completely gone out of my head. So, talking about cup competitions, a couple of weeks ago in the Europa League, we had José Mourinho's team against Manchester United. Total box office again. And afterwards, I've not seen it properly. I don't know if you guys have, but he did a bit of a rant about how people, don't really understand or like Turkish football. And he said that obviously he was happy to be their manager and things like that, to be working in Turkey. But I think he's got unfinished business still in the Premier League. The guy might not be the special one as he was in the first part of the 21st century, but he's still box office to me. And he gave a bit of box office against Manchester United, obviously one of his old teams. I think our league is poorer without him. He may not have the same spark, but you know you're going to get something from him, which is going to make you watch it again and again and again. You know, when he became Tottenham's manager, do you remember that video of him running back to the referee with his assistant trying to get somebody booked? You know, he sat down and then ran over to the referee again after his assistant said, "What about that? That should have been a booking." The man is total box office to me. Absolutely total box office. And I'd love him back. Where? I don't know. He seems to be the kind of manager that does 2 or 3 years here, there and everywhere, falls out and then moves somewhere else. So his signing on fees are pretty good after all this time. Shaun, what's your view on José Mourinho? Does he still have unfinished business in our league?
No, I sort of disagree with you. I don't think there's a club in the Premier League that'll take him now. I just think that there's too much baggage. There's too many things have gone on, and let's face it. Apart from Chelsea, he wasn't a major success. I mean, Tottenham hated the football. United hated the football. You know, I just think he's probably found his niche in Turkey for a while now, and then where he goes from there, who knows? Yeah,
you see, no disrespect to Turkey, right? You know, they've got some teams that compete there. I was a bit disappointed when he went there. And I think if you look back at the time when Fergie left in 2013 and the 6 managers they've had, I'd be interested to see whether the Mourinho years would be their favourite out of the 6 that have replaced Fergie since. And, he left there too quickly, in my opinion. They'd won a couple of competitions, and obviously one of them being I think it was the Europa League, wasn't it? That he won with them. But I can see him coming back to this country. Maybe not your top 6, Shaun.
He says he'll come back and go in the 3rd division, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's right. With Blackpool.
Tongue in cheek. Well, I think he retracted that statement the next day, basically saying no, he wouldn't do that. But I still think he's got something to offer, but I'm just not sure whether it's in the Premier League anymore.
Okay, so he's not going to go back to Chelsea, not the 3rd time.
No.
Man United he won't go back to. I'm talking about your traditional top 6, or what Sky call the top 6. Tottenham he's been to, that will never happen. He'll never go to Arsenal, he'll never go to Liverpool, and he'll never go to Man City, right? I would say that he wouldn't go to a club like Aston Villa as well, who are in that mix, and possibly Newcastle United, maybe one or two others. But I can see him going to, a team that is mid-table-ish.
A Fulham or a Brentford?
Maybe so.
SRB Media. Would you have liked to play for Jose?
Would I have liked to play for Jose? I suppose in a very selfish view, when he was at Chelsea. But I'm not so sure about... Having said that, I suppose at United as well, because they're such a big club. I mean, it must be a fantastic honour to play for them at some point in your career. And that's sort of what I don't get about the players of today. They don't seem to take it like that. They just take it. It's a done deal. They've signed the contracts and they're a United player. Yeah,
there's going to be a big shift out there with this new manager coming in.
Yeah,
definitely. But you know what? He's not. I mean, my favourite manager of all time, putting my football head on. Let's see if you agree, because you're from the same era. Brian Clough. We spoke about this last week, the greatest England manager that we never had.
Never was.
And to take 2 provisional clubs like Derby and Forest and making them champions. But I think he was the 21st century version of that. Because he did it for Porto as well, didn't he? He made them champions. Mm-hmm. I think they won the UEFA Cup against Celtic a couple of years before when O'Neill was in charge. And then he did the same with Inter Milan, didn't he?
Yeah.
Just at a time when the Italian club started to suffer in Europe.
You can't knock his CV. His CV is unbelievable. The trophies he's won, the teams he's put together. But I just think the Premiership's probably sailed now. Interesting,
because he left Spurs a week before the League Cup final in 2021, and it's typical of Mourinho, isn't it, really, to do that? But for me, the guy's box office, total box office. I can't recall... when did he start changing his football? Because when he came to Chelsea Mark 1, back in 05, 06, 07, whatever, he played some great football.
Yeah, but you look at the players he had, Rob.
Yeah, true.
He had such a talented bunch of players.
And the money at his fingertips.
And I don't think with all due respect to Tottenham and to United, I don't think he had the same calibre players.
No. His stint at Chelsea version 1.0, for want of a better word, was his greatest team that he ever had, in my opinion.
Definitely.
When he came back I think they won the league still under him in the early part of the last decade, in the 10s. But it was nowhere near, was it?
No.
Nowhere near. But yeah, I think I can see him going to a London. Maybe West Ham would be a move for him.
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely think if he was to come back, it would be a London club. I think he made that pretty clear the way he acted at United, where he lived in a hotel and he always looked grumpy. And I think if he was based in London, I think he'd be a lot happier.
Yeah, I mean, I can see something like West Ham working out well for him.
Well, they need to do something, don't they?
Yeah, they're not doing too well at this moment in time, are they? Definitely. Talking about this. So Chris, yes or no to a return for Jose? Are you a naysayer?
I mean, yeah, I'd like to see him. Of course, yeah. I'm agreeing with Paul here, though. I don't think he would.
No.
I don't
Okay.
think he would return. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. As Paul says, it's not for me. As no big club would have him.
Interesting. Maybe, as you say, Shaun, there is a lot of baggage with him.
Well, there's always baggage with him because he says the wrong things at the wrong time and comes up with these anecdotes that are just unfitting for what's going on, really.
Yeah, fair enough.
So did Clough.
Yeah, very true. Very true. I do like the Mavericks.
Oh, crikey, yeah.
You can't beat them.
No.
That's the one reason that Clough never got the England job, because the FA was scared stiff of what he'd say.
I mean, it was that safe pair of hands with Ron.
Yeah,
I can't remember his surname now. Somebody help me out. Greenwood. That was the one. Complete safe pair of hands, wasn't he?
Yeah.
A yes man. Which makes me, I mean, I know we spoke about the England job and Tuchel, but it makes me wonder why they have gone for Tuchel, because he's not exactly a yes man himself, is he?
No, you're right. I mean, he's one of the few that can cause turmoil, at any time.
Exactly. Be interesting to think what have you. Thank you, Paul, for jumping in and putting your two penneth worth in. Really good. Be interesting to see if anybody else has any comments about. But yeah, in my opinion, I'd like to see him back, and maybe a team like West Ham would do it for him. So I spoke about Jose. His last, or he left Spurs under a cloud just before the League Cup final. And I want this week's show, I know we spoke about this already, the main bulk of this is to discuss the League Cup. Obviously, Villa went out of it last week against a full-strength Crystal Palace, which didn't really surprise me, and Crystal Palace fully deserved it. So that's another a trophy that we can't win this season. But, a lot of people, the thing with the League Cup is, and this is going to be a shameless plug now, I've just recently released a book about the history of the League Cup from 1960 to 2024. So it covers the Liverpool-Chelsea final from earlier on this year. And I cover every single final with, stories that, were made during those times. And it's a cup competition that's absolutely fascinated me. It was my first cup final that I went to in '77 against Everton when we beat them there, and I've been to a few League Cup finals since. Mr. Teale was in one of them, but I'll come on to you in a minute. Right. So, but what is going to happen to the League Cup? I'll give you a quick example, and again, I'm shamelessly plugging here, so I'll just go to what I've put here. This is your show, sure, not mine, really, but. I think this is what I put on one of my blogs about the League Cup. It is my view that the League Cup will continue despite the external threats. Or rather, I truly hope that it does. It has given opus to teams like Birmingham City, Norwich City, Queen's Park Rangers, Oxford, Luton, Swindon, Middlesbrough, Swansea, and provided Rochdale and Bradford City with final berths as well. None of these clubs can lay real claim to knocking on the door of football's Illuminati at any point, but I would wager that their wins are equally as important as those with the extended trophy cabinets. These victories for the underdogs are, very good football in general, and long may it continue. So I really hope that this competition, it survived a lot of changes, the Premier League, the money coming into there, clubs like Manchester United not putting teams out. They were the first ones to do it. And then everybody seemed to follow that in the latter part of the 90s and going into the 21st century. I think it's a great competition. It obviously gives you European space as well. Shaun, what's it like to play in a final, and what is your view on the League Cup?
Well, first of all, to play in a final is at Wembley is every player's dream anyway. Whether it be League Cup, FA Cup, even a pre-season game. Everybody wants to play at Wembley, and I think that's always been the case. On a personal experience, it was the best day of my life. Running out at Wembley, beating United, stopping them getting the treble. So it was a hell of a day, and the whole run from starting with the two-legger against Birmingham City right through was just a great thing for that season in particular. Do I think it will stay, or I think it'll get changed slightly. I think the big clubs will drop out of it completely sooner or later.
Really?
And I think it might even go to the point of it being a championship down kind of cup. I think the big boys don't want it because, your Cities, Uniteds, even Villa. I mean, Unai changed 10 players, so it's all right saying, it's giving other players game time. But if that's still classed as taking it seriously, well, then I actually doubt it.
Yeah. You see, I've got a bit of a different opinion on the big teams because they are still winning the competition.
They are because what they do is they play the second teams until they get to a certain point, and then all of a sudden they realise, oh look, we can have a day at Wembley, win this, get into Europe. But the really big teams, your City, your Chelsea's, all that, they're looking to get into Europe. They're not looking to get into that European competition. They want to be in the big competition. So, and that's why I think. And the other thing is as well, obviously we've had this huge thing about too many games and how do they cut them down? All right, there's the Club World Cup this year, which sort of, for certain teams, gives them another, 6, 7, 8 games. But I just think there's more important games now for the big clubs.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's wasting a European place as well when you think about it, right? Mm-hmm. So you get your UEFA Cup. No, sorry, it's the is it the Europa League you're going to,
Cup.
Or is it the conference? Okay, yeah, it's one of them, right? So Manchester City won it 4 times on the trot, from about 17 to 2021. Something like that, right? And they had their spot in the Champions League because they were either champions themselves or in that top 4. Yeah. So that is giving away one of our spots in Europe. Yeah. And since Man City stopped winning it, who we had? Liverpool, Manchester United.
Yeah.
And when United done it, they were top 4 again.
Yeah.
They finished top 4 when United won it 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So,
Rob, look at it from this way. If you took the Premier League teams out of it and kept that European place, how desperately would the likes of, let's take Birmingham City back in the Championship, or Sunderland or West Brom, how good would it be for those clubs to have a chance to play in the Conference League?
Do you know what? Your view at the start of this was, I can see being a Championship down kind of cup. And I didn't like that. My first reaction to what that was, I don't like it. It's a competition which has, all 4 leagues in it. And I say that because obviously I've got skin in the game with doing that cup. So, but maybe when you consider the the Man City, Liverpool, Man United thing, where they've all won it over the last 8 years or so, and a spot has been taken up, maybe that wouldn't be such a bad thing, is what you're saying, Shaun?
Well, I mean, even going down the Premier League, look at the likes of Fulham, Brentford again. They don't play a full team. So, what is the point? It's no good the Brentfords and this all moaning that it's taken a cup competition away from them. But they don't play a full team. So they don't take it that serious to start with anyway.
I mean, that's a good point. Crystal Palace came to Villa Park last week and put out a good team and won the game. So that is another good point.
But we know why they did that. They'd won at the weekend, and they want to keep momentum. When winning at Villa Park, we're just going to keep that momentum going. I think if they'd have been on a decent run, I bet you Eze's and all that wouldn't have played.
Yeah, you may have a good comment there, and obviously the fact that league positions, a chairman these days, and we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago as well. A chairman these days doesn't care about the money that comes in from the League Cup.
No,
we as fans do,
anyway.
and as players, right? Because it's a memory. But so if they can get 2 or 3 places higher in the Premier League, and that brings them in an extra 3 mil or whatever, I just use that figure there, then they're going to want to take that, aren't they, and put pressure on management to do that.
Every position is so much more money in the Premier League, so that becomes more important, the financial side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good story here for you, Chris, and I'll come on to your opinion on this because yours is equally as valuable. Right, so I've hosted events for Tony Daly and Shaun Teale. Mm-hmm. Obviously, with Shaun, both good mates of mine, but with Shaun, I wrote his book as well. Yeah. But in Tony's book, because he doesn't drink, right, the couple of days before the final against United in '94, Big Ron took him to an Italian restaurant in London.
Right.
Now, according to Tony, hardly anybody drank because he was sitting with people that don't drink, and Tony doesn't drink, right? Shaun tells a completely different story about having slightly more than 1 or 2 on that night. The difference between Tony Daly and Shaun Teale, honestly, have you seen the way that Tony Daly looks these days?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Careful.
What are you trying to say?
He looks like he's still playing. Absolutely. Yeah. But Shaun, what's it like? As Chris and I know what it's like to be a winner and a loser at a League Cup final. What's it like to tell us a little bit more about the day itself? Before you do that, actually, let's talk about a story in the book. Let's do the day before when you were training at Bisham Abbey and Ron wanted you guys to do corner practice.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell to the listeners and to Chris exactly what happened to your nose?
Yeah, well, we've been practicing defending corners, obviously, and that was pretty straightforward, what we always used to do. And then Ron decided we'd look at some different kind of corners. And unfortunately for me, a certain Mr. Bosnich thought it would be really clever to come and punch one of these corners. However, he missed and he hit me flush on the nose. And personally, I've never heard a nose crack like mine cracked that day. You could hear it right across Bicester and Abbey. And instantly, I knew, and then I got back to my room to get a shower and realised that not just breaking my nose, it literally took a layer of skin off the bridge of my nose completely, which I must admit was great amusement to the United players on Wembley before the game the next day. But it was one of those things happening in training, and it was obviously never going to stop me playing. You'd have had to have broken both legs to stop me running out at Wembley.
So you've mentioned there that nothing would stop you playing, and knowing you as I do these days, I fully get that's Shaun Teale's take on it, and you wouldn't have. But did you ever fear that Big Ron might go, no, I can't risk you in it? Did that ever cross your mind on that Saturday?
No, because Ron named the team actually the day before anyway, so we all knew. So obviously we were all pulled in one by one into Ron's room, had the chat with him. He told you whether you were playing or not. And he just asked me how I was. And I said, I'm fine, no problem. Obviously the nose is broke, but he said, yeah. But he said, you look like a proper centre-half now, so you'll be all right.
Tell us about the day. Tell us about the morning. You got up. You've all gone down for breakfast. Give us the routine of a final.
And obviously it's a little bit awkward because the lads that know they're playing are geared up for it, ready to play, talking about going to Wembley and playing, and then you've got the rest of the squad that either are on the bench or not involved full stop. And I'd hate to have been one of those. It must have been so difficult. And then obviously breakfast, a bit of a walk just to stretch your legs, and then onto the coach to head down Wembley Way. You
had Stan Boardman on the coach,
did, yeah.
a guest of Ron Atkinson. You'd not heard him. There were a couple of gags before face to face, but you heard it a couple of times, didn't you? On that day, what was he like on the coach going to Wembley?
Well, I must admit, I think it was a bit of a masterstroke from Ron, because we literally laughed the whole way to Wembley, and I think if you see old videos of us getting off the coach, you can just see how relaxed everybody was. So from that point of view, I think it worked perfectly. The only problem was after we'd won and we had the big party back at the Royal Lancaster, they brought him back on stage to do some more gags, and he told the same ones. To which Gary Parker ripped him a new bumhole.
Did he do the German jokes from the World War?
No, which was a shame, because they are funny anyway. He is a funny fella, and he's a big mate of Ron's, and it just, I believe, I didn't know till maybe 5-6 years after the final that he'd done it with Sheffield Wednesday as well, when he was Sheffield Wednesday manager, and they went to the League Cup
when
final.
Ron won it with them in 91?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he did the same thing. Stan went then as well. I think Stan just liked a free ride to Wembley, to be honest.
Yeah. And did you find that you were relaxed when you got there then?
Yeah, sure. We got in the changing room, and then it was like, right, go and have a walk around the pitch, get used. Because don't forget, this is old Wembley, so this is that pitch that everybody talks about, drains every ounce of energy out of you. So we went out, had a wander around, had a chat with the United lads, and walked back to the dressing room.
When you were talking about Buzzy.
Well, I had Brian Robson and Paul Ince and that laughing their heads off at me. And sort of saying what the effing hell has happened to you, and of course as soon as you mention Bozzy, they cringe, and it's like, oh no,
not Bozzy again.
No, yeah.
Right. So what's it like? I mean, did you? Well, I know you never, because I watched you play on that day. But was it a temptation to play the game or the actual occasion? Thank you, Shaun. Thank you for that.
Because it was United, it was all about playing the game. The occasion didn't really come into it. We knew we were massive underdogs, and from that point, we had to be right on our game to believe we could win it. Because nobody else believed we could win it. I think an awful lot of Villa fans went to the game probably expecting us not to win it, but. Again, we played really well on the day, took our chances really well, and thoroughly deserved it in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. What's it like going up the steps and, collecting your medal?
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I mean, again, that's what every footballer, that's their aim, to get to Wembley, to win a cup final, whether it be the FA Cup or the League Cup, lift the trophy, get your medal, and do the lap of honour, because the lap of honour is probably as important as everything else. Yeah. I have to say, though, by the time we did the lap of honour, there was no United fans in the ground.
No.
There was mass exodus.
Yeah, Wembley, if you're a fan, is not a place for losers.
No. It's not the same anymore, is it? I mean, just like 40 years ago, the whole crowd would stay right till the end. Lose or win, you would stay. Such an occasion, but it's horrible when you see that split right down the middle of the
I
stadium.
agree, yeah, I agree.
And it's empty and then it's full. Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, but as a fan, I know you don't know this, Chris. I wish to God you did. But we've lost a few finals now in the 21st century. Whereas before, I go to the finals in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Yeah. Black and white.
And you felt, and you felt like you could, You felt like you could win the game, but it's been horrible since doing that. So really, I can see why the United fans had left at that stage. I
think they were so used to winning.
Yeah,
they were on the crest of a wave at that time. They beat us to the Premier League in '92. I think they won it again in '93. They were going for the treble in '94. So they were just so clued into winning, and it was the unthinkable, really, for an ordinary Villa team, as they'd probably think we were, to go out and turn them over 3-1.
Yeah. I mean, it was a very important win for football because it stopped the treble being done.
Yeah, definitely.
At the time. But also as well, and this is where I am going to bring in our producer Chris on this part here, Birmingham City's 2011 win.
Okay.
It was massive for football. I mean, really massive for football. And I'll tell you why I say that. I wish it had been another team, obviously. But no, joking apart, we'd seen in the 70s and 80s, not so much in the 90s, but definitely in those times, you got your likes of Southampton, West Ham, Luton, Oxford, Norwich. I could name Sunderland, right? Wimbledon, even, that went to Wembley and upset the elite, right, in those games. At the start of the Premier League, you got your six basically winning, and Villa was one of them at the time, right, winning stuff, right? And that went into the 2000s, right? And then we get to the 2011 League Cup final, and Arsenal, silky Arsenal, are expected to really turn over the Birmingham City. And it never happened. And it was the underdog. It was like your Southamptons again. It was like a throwback to those times in the 70s and 80s. And that's why I say it was massively important. It stopped, it made you believe again that any team could win a cup competition, and that's why it's massive. And then the season after, Wigan won the FA Cup, or 2 seasons after, I can't remember. Both teams were relegated, Birmingham and Wigan, during that time. But when I speak to Birmingham City fans, and I've asked you this question before, Chris, when I speak to Birmingham fans and Wigan fans, I'm really disappointed when they say that they would have given the cup up to have stopped in the Premier League. Because, football, for the vast majority of us, is 99% disappointment. Unless you're really down on that top table, you've got to take your chances when you get them, and that's what you remember. And that's why Birmingham's win was so massive, in my opinion.
Well put.
I bet if you asked any of the Birmingham City players which they'd have preferred, I bet they'd say they'd prefer winning the cup.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, massive. Absolutely massive. And again, since Birmingham, Swansea won the cup 2 years later, but they beat Bradford City, who were a 4th division club.
Yeah.
And they beat them like they should, 5-0.
But I think this is sort of, we're going down the same line as we're at now. It's only the elite clubs winning it. So the interest from the lower league clubs dwindles because they sort of think, well, it's the same 3 or 4 teams going to win it for the next 10 years. So what's the point? Yeah.
What was it like, Chris, to be there when that? Okay. I mean, he was going into extra time, wasn't it? He was going into extra time, in my opinion, and I think Arsenal would have won the game.
I think the heart had gone by then. I think it was nowhere. No, it wasn't going to extra time. What was it like to be there? You know what? It was really strange because a lot of time you felt like you needed to pinch yourself, and when I came out the ground, it was really subdued. Everybody was really subdued, quiet. It was like it just didn't sink in. We've won a cup. You know what I mean? In the 21st century. Birmingham City won a cup. It was very strange. But I mean, I was pretty drunk at the time.
So was Tealey when he took to the pitch.
That doesn't make you a bad person, though, Chris.
So maybe, Shaun, you know, I was dismissive of your comment to start off with. It does need the Premier League teams, but maybe you come out with a good point there. And if it gives, you know, the non-elite, and no disrespect to them, if it gives them the opportunity to go and win a cup and get into Europe, then maybe it's a good way of doing stuff.
Well, here's another slight slant on it. If you take the Premier League clubs out because they don't need the money, it's better for the Championship or Division 1 clubs to fight it out, A, to get in Europe, and B, to earn that money.
Yeah, interesting point. But I think it's fair to say that for the three of us here now on this podcast, the League Cup has been fantastic.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
You know, it's giving you a great day out, Shaun, and a winner's medal. You know, from the terraces, it's given myself and Chris, you know, utter moments of joy.
Yeah, and hangovers.
Definitely.
But Dave, you know, you're talking about, like I said, good call what you've just made there. But you know, they have diluted it, haven't they? You don't play your first and second rounds on a home and away basis anymore, do you? I think they're doing the same with the semi-finals.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but obviously they've changed the FA Cup again this year. So, you know, they've got rid of replays completely. You know, every game's finished on that day, and everything seems to be getting diluted slowly.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that one. Especially when they have Birmingham City on a Sunday afternoon. Made me want to go to church.
Bless you, my son.
Yeah, bless you, my son. Yeah, church tavern, I meant there, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, so our third and final one for tonight's podcast then. We've all agreed on this is today, which is Wednesday. Lee Carsley has done his last squad before Tuchel takes over, and I think it's not this week but the week after that we've got the or 2 weeks time, whatever, we've got the final 2 weeks away from the Premier League and league football, and we've got the national what's it called again? I keep on forgetting.
Nations.
That's it, the Nations League and all that kind of stuff. I find it utterly boring, that 2 week period, utterly boring. Without having the, I understand why we've got to have it, right? Because you've got to have your nation teams getting together. I understand it, but do we have to have 2 weeks away, Shaun?
No, well, no. I mean, they evolved the Nations League really to get rid of international friendlies as such, because they were a waste of time. You know, players were pulling out left, right, and centre, and going through the motions in the games. And I think as a FIFA decided, in their wisdom, make it into a competition that gets you something at the end of it, then it's worth going down that road. But for me, I mean, this will be the third international break in the first 10 games of the season.
Yeah.
And it's just madness. I mean, we have our first international break after is it 2 games? You've only just got into the swing of the Premier League.
It's no more than 3, Shaun.
Well, you've all of a sudden you've just got into the Premier League. You know, you might have started with 3 wins, and then you go away. Someone gets injured, an important player. Take Odegaard at Arsenal. You know, they've stuttered since he's been out of the team, and he got injured playing for Norway.
Yeah, that's very true.
You know, and there's no compensation as such, well, you can't compensate a player like that because you've lost him for, 6 to 8 weeks has it been? And I just don't see the sense.
Do players get paid to play for England still? I know they used to.
That's a good question.
Thank you, producer Chris.
Yeah, they do one now and again.
Do they get paid, Shaun? Sorry.
I don't know. I actually don't know. You're right, they used to. Whether it be a payment or an appearance fee or whatever, I don't know. But I'm not sure anymore. The FA are skint anyway, so they can't pay him.
Yeah, that's very true. I don't think they need paying, do they?
No, let's face it, they all earn enough to not need to be paid by England. Don't get me wrong. If you get to the Euro finals or the World Cup final, then I think you deserve some kind of payment or something for getting there. Because let's face it, if you get to World Cup final, you've excelled to get there.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
you should want to play for England, though. Surely,
yeah, exactly.
You should want to play, regardless of monetary gains.
But have you noticed now with this, Shaun? You come up with a good point about. You come up with a few good points tonight. I'm being nice to you. Just remember that I'm being nice to you. Mm-hmm. Okay, just remember that. So you mentioned that they've replaced the internationals, which became meaningless, and players were dropping out for the injury or whatever that they didn't have, that had magically disappeared by the time they started back with their clubs. But that seems to be the case now with this league format. Players are dropping out. Maybe not as many.
Well, I was listening to a radio station today, and they were talking about up to 8 England players dropping out of this squad through injuries. So, I suppose you can say the Nations League hasn't had the effect that everybody wanted it to. Yes, I know that years ago players just didn't report. Villa would phone up and say, "Oh no, he can't play. He's not fit." Whereas now they have to report to St George's Park and be assessed, and then being told, "No, you're not fit. Go home," or "We think you're fit enough to maybe play the second game, so you stay with us." So, things have changed an awful lot. I mean, my own story, Rob, and this, I got injured at Newcastle, and Terry Venables picked me for a squad for an end-of-season tournament, and Ron Atkinson pulled me out the squad without telling me. And I lost the chance of earning 3 England caps and never got a cap in the end. And from that point of view, the way I look at it is that if you get an England call-up and you get a cap, that then, as a football player in the eyes of the general public, puts you on a different level. By being pulled out of the squad and not playing, you never get to that level in the eyes of the general public. And it hurt me deeply when I was pulled out, to the point I've never forgiven.
Yeah, it does give you kudos, having that.
Oh, definitely.
Being an international.
I mean, even to the point, Rob, of moving clubs. We want to buy Shaun Teale. Oh, well, he's not an England international. We'll pay you this. We want to buy Shaun Teale. Oh, yeah, well, it's a regular in England's setup. We'll pay you this.
Yeah, absolutely. So the time that Shaun is talking about there, Chris, is the summer of 1994. If you remember, that was the USA World Cup where we didn't qualify.
Yeah.
So Venables put together a 3-match, and he had a lot of fringe players come in. And unfortunately, Shaun wasn't one of them, as he's just said there. More for another day on that one, Shaun.
Okay.
More for another day. Right, I think that brings us to the end of tonight's podcast. We've done about 50 minutes or so of Shaun saying something. I don't know if it's really saying something, but, But I'll tell you what's good, though, guys, right? I'm listening to these on the way back south when I go home to where I live. Okay. And it's really nice listening to our podcast.
Yeah. Some people don't like listening to their own voice, do they?
Yeah.
I think you've got to, haven't you?
Yeah, this is what we're doing podcasts for. Yeah. But it's really nice to listen to you, to Shaun, to our guests when we have them on, and things like that. So for the next one, I do believe we have one of our first guests. I think in terms of the competitions and having guests on, I think that'll be more of a early 2025 thing. We're just getting into our routine at this moment, aren't we?
Yeah.
Just getting match fit. But we're hoping to have Stephen Fletcher, who played for Bournemouth back in the 90s and early part of the 90s. Mr. Bournemouth, basically. Shaun and I have been speaking to him, so we're hoping to get him on, and then we can talk around Bournemouth as well, because they've started off really well. Picked up 7 points out of 9 against Man City. Arsenal and Villa. Yeah. You know, so they're doing really well at this moment in time, and long may it continue.
Yeah, I've just put up a reminder to those watching that you can listen to these podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, and so forth. But so if you just Google Tealey Saying Something, you'll get the first one will come up with the Apple one, which you can see on the screen there. So there we go. Just playing with me knobs, actually.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're playing with your knobs and you're in a different room to where I am at this moment in time.
You don't want to see me playing with my knobs.
I don't, absolutely don't.
No.
Interesting though, when we were talking about the international breaks, Chris brought up a list of different sites on Google, and all of them were saying that they didn't like it.
That's right, yeah.
So I think it's more of a a unanimous thing on it. So listen, have a great time to all those that will listen back to this and have joined us tonight. Really appreciate it. We're now getting into the full swing of things, and we'll do our next one in a couple of weeks. What you got coming up, Shaun? Anything nice in the next week or so?
No, quiet time really. Obviously, international break, so no trips down to Villa Park. My next trip there is the next home game, 23rd, Crystal Palace. So, and we need to get our own back on them for knocking us out the cup.
Yes, we do play Crystal Palace. What you got, Chris, coming up?
We've got Northampton, mighty Northampton.
Northampton,
yeah.
Sounds like a load of cobblers to me.
Yeah. I believe we've only got one home game now in the whole of November.
Really?
Yeah.
Good grief!
International.
I think to be honest, I think we've only got the 2.
Yeah. And who's our next game in the Champions League?
Juventus.
Oh, is that the next one?
At home. Yeah, that's in
Juventus.
Little Juventus.
Yeah.
Maybe
big talk about Douglas Luiz coming back to us, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. I'll tell you a story about Juventus back in '83 when we last played them in the European Cup. I still say this to this day: best team I've ever seen at Villa Park.
Yeah,
they had the Italia '82 squad, Platini, Ziggy Boniek. Remember Ziggy Boniek? Mm-hmm. The Polish player, they were fantastic. It was one of those games where you just, even though you lose, you applaud. It's one of those games.
Right, okay.
It comes every now and again. Yeah. But, you know, if you like your football, you just appreciate how good things were. Well, listen, chaps, have a good week or so before we next speak. And I'll speak to you all soon. Okay. Thanks for listening to the CSS podcast.
Good night. Good night.